No worries. What was its Klaus saying? Okay. Yes. Do you want to start sharing your screen? So there's people in the waiting room. There's 36
Yes,
people.
I can start share. Barbara, is it okay?
Yeah, you can start sharing.
Okay. Are you just try?
No, still not able to.
Right. Just try now.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's great. Okay. Okay, so we have 41 people waiting. Should we admit them?
Yes. Yes, go to slide. Wait, no, never mind. Don't slide.
Okay, please. Oh, Nicholas. Once I go live, I'm going to give you the hosting powers.
Okay.
So it's gonna record. Yeah, it's gonna record on your end. Alright, I'm doing that now. So please mute yourselves. We're going live in.
Hi everyone, welcome to the meeting and thank you so much for keeping time. So I just want you all look at the chat box. I've posted a link for Menti and we'll be starting with a small quiz. Yes.
I want to take the freaking quiz.
So the quiz is basically, it's just a few MCQs on SRHR and I'm sure we can learn a thing or two from them. So we're starting now and make sure you keep time. So the correct answer is E, because according to the International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education, there is no magical date to start sexuality education. Even preschool children can be given developmentally appropriate information to teach them about their bodies and to shape their thinking about gender equality. Let's go to the second one. So the correct answer is D, because globally it's estimated that 1 in 5 girls below 18 are married or in other forms of union. In some countries, the proportion might be a bit higher, like 1 in 3, but in average all over the world, it's 1 in 5. Go to the third question. So the correct answer is number 3. Oh, sorry, I meant choice D. It's because most girls tend to believe that when they're beaten, it's justified. It was in a research made by UNFPA, and I'll be sharing the points and documents in the emails that will follow. Yes. Then the second last question. I'm happy to see most people got this right. The leading cause of death in 15 to 19 years old is pregnancy and childbirth complications. Yes. Onward to the last one. Yes, so Kenya is a country in Africa. I just needed to put that MCQ to clarify because many people get confused. And congratulations, Michael, for being the winner. Yes. And I'd like to hand over to Kevin. I hope he's online so that he can proceed with the session today.
So, let me first. Okay, I'm here. So I hope you're all fine. I've just been checking the quiz, and I like how people have been answering. I'm getting echo. So,
I think you're logged in twice. That's why it's echoing.
oh yeah. Is it okay right now?
Yeah, I don't hear any echoing anymore.
Okay, so let's pick it from here. I've seen how people performed in the quiz night. I saw the pre-test evaluation. It was to inform me some of the areas and some of the issues that people already know and what we really need to know. And then I did not look at the feedback of the first session, but I know we had some challenges. But today I think everything is fine, and you're going to look at policy, guidelines, and standards, which relates to adolescent youth, sexual reproductive health, and rights. So as people join in, you're just going to continue because today we have quite a long session. Last time we used 1 hour. Today I think you're going to use 1 hour, approximately 45 minutes. So let's move on. Next slide. So we all familiar with the word policies. Sometimes we hear about guidelines and standards which we use to implement certain services. And as medical students, I want you to be very keen on these documents because they're the ones which are going to provide a basis or the context of which you're going to operate in when you're going to be dealing with clients in future. So why are they important? Like, as I've explained there, these are documents that governments and institutions utilize to regulate and administer courses of action for realization of human rights, including reproductive rights. It is supposed to be human rights, including reproductive health rights. And we also have other documents, such as the standard operating procedures and protocols. A good example is during this pandemic period, you have had governments have developed protocols on how they're going to ensure they get back to the normal way of doing things. So these documents bring all the proposed measures which have been proposed by scientists, by researchers, and they make a document which we, as the service provider, you need to use them so that you can provide quality services. The other thing is that these documents are there to ensure high quality care while providing a service or consultation. The other thing, they also standardize and create equality when it comes to service provision. Everyone has the right to medical health care, and such documents will help us to provide a standardized quality of service and also ensure equality. The other thing is that over time, we get to revise these documents. Policies are usually revised because they are timely based, and there's always an advancement in technology and how science is advancing. So we need to update these policies and these guidelines from time to time. A good example is when Kenya was updating its sexual reproductive health guideline to provide services, and they decided to include the issue of safe abortion. It created quite some controversy. They were in court since 2014, and the case was only determined last year. So between that time to 2019, a lot had happened because of just a document which was going to ensure that our service providers can provide safe abortion services to young people to tackle the issue of maternal mortality. The other thing is that these documents are there so that they can adhere to the human rights framework. We all know about human rights. I'd encourage you at this point to go and look at the human rights because these documents must all be aligned to the human rights. So that is the reason why we have this policy and guidelines. There are so many of them. I cannot list for all countries because I know we come from different countries. But at some point, I'll put a case of Kenya and you're going to look at it. Let's go to the next slide. So in every country, before they offer services to their citizens, they must have a basis. And this basis is the policy context that you're going to look at here. And all of them, they come from the human rights. So some countries have committed to address issues affecting adolescents by being signatories to international and regional human rights treaties and declarations that are key to sexual reproductive health. We all know about sustainable development goals, and in this case, we are focusing on goal number 3, 4, and 5. But goal number 17 is usually the overall one, which creates partnership to achieve all the goals. Someone is saying they can't hear me. Maybe.
Have they tried using the internet audio?
But others can hear me.
Most of us can.
Okay, so I should just get going, yeah? So let's continue from, I was talking about sustainable development goals. I believe in the next exercise that you're going to have a quiz, maybe the next session you're going to look at you should put some question to do with sustainable development goals so that you see if people know about them. The other commitment that most of the African countries, especially sub-Saharan African countries, committed to is the ministerial commitment on comprehensive sexuality education and SRH services for adolescents and young people in Eastern Southern Africa. It's called the ESA commitment, of 2013. This one mostly provides for comprehensive sexuality education, which results to health outcomes, which we call access to sexual reproductive health services among adolescents. The other thing is the Convention on the Rights of Children. It also provides for young people to access reproductive health services, especially during transition stage of adolescence. And then the recent one which happened in Kenya, Nairobi, is the International Conference on Population and Development. It was the follow-up session of the conference after the one that happened in 1994 in Cairo, which had a very good document that all medical students should be familiar with. It's called the ICPD Plan of Action of 1994. That is another document you can try finding on the internet so that you can look at it. It has so many provisions to do with reproductive health. And then you also have Maputo Plan of Action. Maputo Plan of Action is one of the documents that provides clear guidelines among African countries on how reproductive health services should be provided to its populations. So that is also another important document. The plan of action took place in Maputo. Maputo is the capital city of one of the countries in Africa. Convention, because we have also convention on elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. We call it CEDAW. That is another convention that provides a legal basis for us to provide sexual reproductive health services for girls and young women. So when you look at these that I've talked about, these ones are mostly on a global and regional level. Most of them, these ones are just some of them, but we have so many conventions that took place around the world. The other thing that we should remember is that they don't force countries to, to implement everything that they have on the convention, but they say each and every country is allowed to contextualize the issue so that they can fit their local settings. So some countries are ahead of others, some are held back because of several barriers or factors. So let's go to the next slide. So a case of Kenya is here. As you can see, all these are processes that the parliament had to go through to make sure that the global and regional convention and policies or protocols are nationalized and are contextualized to fit the case of each and every country. So in Africa, in fact, not only Africa, but globally, Kenya is one of the countries that has so many policies on reproductive health that are good, at least a policy to a specific issue that is affecting young people. The only challenge we're having is the obvious challenge of translating what is on paper to action. But slowly you're moving there. So as you can see, I've listed some of them. I've tried to exhaust, but I've left like one or two, and we still have bills in parliament that are being discussed on how to provide these services to the young women. So the first one is those who are not Kenyans, kindly, let's just take this as a case study. So the first one is the Constitution of Kenya. Kenya had to change its constitution after the colonial period. We got another one in 2010. It has an Article 26, which speaks on issues to do with life and provisions to provide abortion. Then we also have Article 43 that provides for the right to health care, including reproductive health care, and it should be the highest standard. And then you also have the Sexual Offences Act, which talks on issues to do with gender-based violence. And then we have the National Adolescent Sexual Reproductive Health Policy. This is one of the most important policies. I think it's 2016 or 2006, I think also. It was revised. Then we have the Children's Act. It provides for adolescents to access high quality healthcare services. Then we have Counter Trafficking in Persons Acts. We have one which talks on FGM. We have one on persons with disability. We have the HIV and AIDS Prevention and Control Act of 2006. So I hope you can read them. There are so many, but the National Adolescent Sexual and Reproductive Health Policy and the National Reproductive Health Policy are very important to our work. And as people who are going to be providing services in the future, you need to be familiar with the kind of policy frameworks that you have in your country so that you know the basis on what you're going to offer as a service to the young people who will be coming to you and they want to access reproductive health services. So knowing the policy framework is very important. And it does not end here because after some of these acts of parliament and some of these sessional papers or policies, we also have standards and guidelines, because standards and guidelines now translate it from the policy to how a service provider in a consultation room is going to give this service to the young people. So it does not end here. Then you also have frameworks. There are so many documents that you need to be familiar with before you offer these services. So kindly mute your mic. So to summarize this part, we can all agree that for us to offer these youth-friendly services, we need to be familiar with the frameworks in our countries so that we know what can we offer, when can we offer, and whom can we offer these services to. I hope you're together up to there. So let's go to the next slide. So sometimes as a service provider, when I say service provider, I hope you understand I'm putting in all the people who work in the medical field, from the counselors, nurses, clinical officers, and medical doctors. Sometimes you might be aware of what you need to provide, but there are some things that are limiting you to provide them. When you look at your context, local context, from the country which you come from, we have issues that we hold dear to our community. It can be our religious values, it can be our cultural values, it can be our family values, and then it can also be a personal value that you hold so dear to the way you work. As human beings, we all have that part of our lives. And now, in this session, you're going to look at how does it affect or affect how we provide essential services to young people. So this is what we call the value clarification and attitude transformation. In short, we call it GAC. We call it VCAT. So let's go to the next slide. So uh, VCAT, VCAT, for those who have heard about it before, these are exercise, or it's a whole training that trains the service provider or the medics on how they can be able to be aware about their conflicting ideas. And it's very important. It is a whole training. So here I just had to mention it and to have the definition of it so that you can have an understanding. But this is something that can be done separately because it's experiential in nature. It has a lot of exercise, questions, people sharing their views. So here I just had to do a few to do a definition so that you can have an understanding, and it's something we really need to reflect upon as we pursue our careers in medical field. So as you can see, value clarification, its objective is to reduce the emotional distress and increase the positive outcomes or productivity. It helps the medics to clarify their values and what influences them in making decisions and their behavior. And it also encourages them to build on their external and internal resources and strengths so that they can be able to deliver quality services to their clients. I know most of you are reading what we have on the slides, but I'll just be explaining. So what I'm saying and what you're reading is just the same. So at times, as you read, I'll use examples. You can be seated in a consultation room, then a young girl comes who is who she can be so young that you have maybe a younger sister and their age mates. And then this young girl comes and tells you, I want to test for HIV, for example, or I feel like it's time I need to use contraceptive. How will you, as a person, look at this girl based on your values? Maybe your religion does not agree with it. Maybe your culture does not agree with it. Maybe even you, as a person, you will have prejudice and feel like, you're so young. You don't have to be coming here for this service. So, how are you going to react? How you're going to react is mostly based on our values, and not only about the professionals who are working in the hospitals. Even us as students, there's a way you can look at other students in campus, how they behave, how they carry out themselves, even among our peers. Are you aware about the values that you have? And do you know the way you are reacting to them? How best can you help them? So that is the question that all of us can be having within us, and we really need to answer. So through this exercise, value clarification can either be an exercise or a therapy to the medics so that they can be able to be aware of themselves. So what really happens is the service providers are advised on the importance of getting help when moral residue leads to a moral disengagement. I hope you are all understanding that. This is when your value, for example, they have said, someone comes to you, they want safe abortion. And according to you, you believe abortion is murder. It will limit you from providing that service because it's your moral residue and it's making you not to provide that service, and it causes moral disengagement. And an effective strategy is to suggest a way for one to own their personal and professional strength as a means to deal with the moral issue in practice. And if that is achieved, that is what we call providing friendly services. It can be to a youth, a child, or an adult. So, what I would like to emphasize here is when I was going through the pre-training evaluation, the last question I noticed most of you said no. So, to this point, I would like to assume that most of you have not handled maybe a case of gender-based violence in campus or among your friends, but value clarification can help you to handle these cases when they come to you, because you need to put the best interest of this person in mind, not your best interest. So at some point in our lives, you're going to come across these experiences. Someone can tell you, I have this problem, I need some help. Someone can tell you, I see you doing ward rounds, maybe you can help me with this. So you need to consider where you are and how much you can help this person without judging them, without using prejudice, without even stigmatizing them. When you do that, it means you are aware of your professional ethos and personal, and you know the thin line that can separate doing something that is objective and something that is morally correct according to your own understanding. So, Alba, kindly you can just leave your question on the comments. I will see it and I will be able to respond as we go on. So let's go to the next slide. So I hope by now you understand the meaning of value clarification. The other thing in which is very important in provision of youth-friendly services is attitude transformation. I've put together a small definition of attitude transformation. It is mostly from the word attitude, and I know all of us know our thoughts mostly originate from the attitude that we have. So the reason why attitude is excellent focal point for our attention is because our attitude is what gives us direct insight into our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Many of our beliefs operate on the level of our subconscious mind. Therefore, they are nearly invisible to us. And moreover, our emotional state is not always obvious. So you cannot be having an obvious state of mind, but it keeps changing. With this, in future, when you'll be providing services or when you're doing consultation to young people, you will notice that each client that will come to you, you will react differently. If an older woman comes, there are some things, there's a way you can look at her and react. If a younger person comes, there's a way you look at her and react. So it means our emotional state is not always obvious, but it changes by each and every person that we come into contact with. The other thing is that I've put here a small example on how attitude can affect individuals. You can see two individuals can be in the rain while one is having a time of their lives, like me. I really like riding my bicycle in the rain. I don't know why, but some people see as if I'm not okay, but that is how I like it. And then another person can be walking even or moving in the rain. They are soaked, cold, and miserable. So these two people will be going through two different experiences. One will be feeling bad and another will be enjoying. The environment remains constant, it's raining. But what makes a difference between the two of them is the way they perceive the environment. And that is where attitude comes in. So I want you to reflect as a medic, how are you going to be treating these young people whom you believe should be playing, you believe they should be somewhere doing their homework, you believe they should be somewhere maybe playing PS, and here they come to the health facility, they say, for example, we need to access condoms, or we need to get information on pregnancy. How does it happen? How do people use contraceptive? How will you feel when a young person comes to you with such an issue? So at that part of service provision, your attitude is going to play a very big role on how you're going to offer the service. So we are all beings of perception, and the quality of our perception is determined by our attitude. This is the importance of attitude. An individual who has openness, honestly, and subtle in perception degrees of their attitude in each moment, and when concentration necessary to make correct and necessary is truly an unlimited person. An unlimited person in this case, I mean someone who has open mind, open hands to receive all the clients and be able to objectively address their health concerns. So at this point, kindly let's reflect on our attitudes. So let's move to the next slide. And I hope people are really understanding. So let's just take 1 minute to look at all these letters that are written here. These are some of the issues that come to our mind whenever you're faced with an situation that is not obvious. Especially when a young person walks in and they want to get a service that you feel it's meant for older people or married people. You will argue with yourself. You start asking yourself about the dignity of the service provision itself, their anatomy, where is the concept, how do you approach it, what is the benefit, is it justice, is it medical, accreditation. You see, all these things will come to mind, and it's good if the medical students can start reflecting upon these things before they start practicing outside there, because they affect people big time. So I've seen a question from Alba. He's saying, let me find it. In my country, you have something called objection of conscience, where if you believe it clashes with a certain practice, such as abortion, you can refuse to do it. But you obligatory have the redirect the patient to another doctor who can do it. I was wondering if you have something like that. Oh, I get you. Alba, this one is there. This one is there. Like I said earlier, VCAT is a all exercise on itself, but at the end of it all, there is something called conscientious objection. We also have it in our country. I think it is a universal practice, so that if the kind of service that you want to offer is in conflict with your values, you can say, let me refer you to someone who can offer this service. What we discourage is when someone refuses to refer and say, I cannot offer this service and I cannot do it. What a service provider is supposed to do is to say, I cannot offer this service, but I can refer you to someone who can provide this service. So I 100% agree with you. We have it. It's just that maybe I forgot to mention it, and I thank you so much for bringing this up. So I hope we can continue. So at this point, I'm going to take it back to one of our facilitators who is going to lead us into that session. So I'm coming back soon. So we are going to have another exercise. Let's wait as they organize. Barbara, you can maybe take us through the exercise.
Okay, so Barbara has to step out. Hi, everyone. My name is Yasser Hamza. I'm a medical student here in Kenya, and we're just going to have a quick session just to hear your thoughts and your opinions, and also test your knowledge. So this is a Menti, so you'll go to you'll use the link, or you'll go to menti.com and use that code 716680. And yeah, tell us what are the issues to consider among young people. What are the major issues? Yeah, so the 716680 is a code you use to access the Menti, and in there you'll get a box where you can input the issues you think a lot of young people face, and we need to consider. I see consent is standing out. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, guys. Great stuff. I see stigma is what many of you are choosing. Someone is asking which code we're using. You log into menti.com, like it says on the top of the screen, and use the code 716680. Or you can click on the link that I've posted on the chat.
And please mute your mic if you're not speaking. Thank you.
Before we move to the next question, would anyone from the participants like to tell us why they think stigma or peer pressure or consent are among the main issues that we need to consider among young people? Does any one of you want to maybe kindly briefly explain?
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, I put stigma. And I think I think like the way society views sex, and I don't know, it's like over here, like they say it's tabia mbaya, like So I think that's what I put, because like stigma coming from parents and teachers and stuff.
Mhm. Hello. Would anyone else would like to explain? Thank you, Atina. Anyone else?
Um, I like to talk about like misinformation. I think many young people view contraceptives as a way to prevent pregnancy. So they tend, when the girl is on contraception, they tend not to use condoms, and STDs are also a big thing that has to be prevented. And the best way to prevent it is with safe sex. So I think there should be more information on that topic, maybe for young people.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Alba. Is there anyone else wants to talk?
And hello, I want to say that there could be a reason. The lack of awareness could be one of the reasons and one of the issues to be considered with the young people. As we all know, young people and mostly adolescents are very triggering kind of
Mhm.
minded. So,
Yeah.
lack of awareness, and also in a young age, they need to have more information regarding the healthy sexual life and the contraceptives and other knowledge which they have to know at this age, so as to prevent further any kind of STDs. And also there need to be information about the lack of awareness among the young people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Aralni. So we'll go to the next question, and maybe one or two people can also talk a bit when everyone else has answered. It's still the same code and it's still the same link. I hope you can all see that. But if you have any challenges, feel free to reach out to me via the chat box. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the next question. What is the most urgent SRHR need in your country? Please forgive the spelling. Yes. Also, as you put in your responses, it would be nice if you could also add the country and the SRHR need. Thank you. So I can see we have different countries. That's good. Spain to educate young people into healthy relationships and sex behaviors. Okay. Kenya, comprehensive sexual education. Inadequate SRH facilities.
There's
Kenya
Sudan as well.
teenage pregnancy.
Sudan, you can see. refusal right for women during sexual activity as well. And there's also Nigeria. Would anyone from either Spain or Sudan or Nigeria like to say something about it? I'd like to hear about why they think it's the most urgent need.
Hi, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. At Spain, I wrote we need more education in that issues because you know there's a lot of stigma and people think it's gonna be bad for children or something like that, and it's difficult to talk about this in some places because there are a lot of different opinions, and so
Okay. Thank you so much, Miguel. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm from
Hello. And I think most teenagers learn about sex from porn, so it's not a healthy relationship in sex. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Elena.
Hello.
Yes, Alba.
In Sudan, we have big problems and about the refusal rights for a woman during sexual activity. And all the people think that sexual activity it's not discussed in open group, just between woman and husband or wife. And generally, the women have not rights to discuss or have a refusal right in this sexual activity.
Okay, thank you so much, Manar. And thanks so much, guys, for your responses. Our short break is over, but before I finish, I'm seeing in the chat box that in Uganda, Kobusinge has said that there are inadequate SRHR facilities, and also Hajara sexuality education is an urgent need in Uganda. So thanks, guys, for all your input. And now I think I'll hand it over back to Kevin to proceed with his presentation. Yes.
So I think I should even pick from where the exercise left us. And from this page, you can look and see this is one of the global blueprints that most countries are supposed to adhere to whenever they're coming up with their plans of action or their policies, so that by 2030 you can be able to achieve this. But as you have seen in the exercise, some countries, even something as simple as sexuality education is quite an issue. It is the same issue in Kenya. I think most things that are affecting Uganda, we share with Kenya and maybe Tanzania. We tend to we tend to go together in the things that we are doing because most of our communities are interrelated. Most of our parliamentarians and policymakers reason almost the same. But with time, I believe you're going to get where you're supposed to be. So, as I mentioned earlier, these are some of the most important sustainable development goals to our work. I'm not saying the rest are not important, but in this sector of health, we all have these SDGs which are closely interrelated and interdependent. I know all of them are interrelated and interdependent, but these ones are so close to each other, and I think that's why they had to be 3, 4, and 5. So, for us to achieve good health and well-being, you need quality education, and through that, the combination of 4 and 3, we are going to achieve gender equality because we are going to provide these services from a gender transformative approach. The reason why in the exercise that we just left, most people are saying sex education is perceived as a taboo, and it's the one that is lacking in most countries. I can see Sierra Leone, I can see Uganda, and community empowerment in sexuality and reproductive health. Why is a challenge is because of the issues of gender norms and issues to do with values and cultural factors are the ones that are contributing to why we have so much delays. And how many years do you have till you reach 2030? Do you really think we can achieve these 17 goals? COVID has also taken us like 3 steps back. So we have quite a long way to go. But as medics, this training is important because it's going to provide you with not only the skills, but my major objective was to provide you with the basis, the background, and the preamble on why we need to see how these issues come about and why we really need to focus on adolescents. Because a younger person who is empowered at this point will have um, higher chances of raising a gender equal family in future, of understanding the objectivity on health issues in future, and all that. So, in good health and well-being, we have sexual reproductive health. In quality education, we also have comprehensive sexuality education being part of it, and then all of it is geared towards having a gender equal society. And these are the things that we really need to achieve before we reach the year 2030. So let's proceed. So gender norms are expectations that increase gender inequality and encourage behaviors that impact on adolescent boys and girls' well-being and their health outcomes. So if we cannot be able to address gender issues, obviously we are going to have negative health outcomes, and it will affect the adolescent mostly. The other thing is that in adolescence, pregnancy-related causes become prominent health risks for girls. Complications related to pregnancy, we all know the complications. They can be postpartum hemorrhage, it can be unsafe abortion, it can be issues to do with fistula, and so many other issues. Sometimes in sub-Saharan Africa, uh, most girls, because of stigma, do not want to go for the checkups, the antenatal care. So most of them end up living with other complications like urinary tract infections. And also during childbirth, there are also complications that come about. And these are among the leading causes of death among adolescent girls. And they contribute to maternal mortality of different countries. I know in most countries it's a different situation, but for us in sub-Saharan Africa, we don't have adequate social workers, we don't have adequate service providers, we don't even have adequate information among these adolescent girls. And when they get pregnant, it makes matters worse. And in fact, the parents sometimes even makes things so bad instead of helping because of also the taboos, the perception, and the negative attitude. So youth-friendly services can be a place where these adolescents can be running to get help. So let's proceed. Among the boys, social norms around masculinity encourage risk-taking, and in many settings, it heightens the risk of tobacco, alcohol, substance abuse, road traffic injuries, and violent behaviors. So among the boys, these ones are mostly attributed to masculinity. Issues of masculinity, you feel like, oh, boys should be the one smoking, boys should be the one drinking more, boys should be the one driving, even when they are under the influence of alcohol, and other risk behaviors like sexual practices. Mostly, boys are encouraged from a younger age to be taking these big risks, not knowing it might impact to their productive health. And they're the same boys also who impregnate these young girls without discussing about it. They don't discuss to plan their future. Boys mostly, because of gender norms, don't want to discuss issues to do with contraception or family planning. They feel like it is just meant for girls. And you see, it is something that even our mothers and fathers contribute to, because it will be very funny. For example, at home one day I was discussing with my sister about family planning, and my mother had me putting a very strong argument on contraceptive methods. And it was something that people laughed at. It was so funny, they could not believe I can be talking about such an issue. So you see, at a younger age, boys are trained sometimes not even to discuss about these issues, and it ended up affecting their well-being. The slide had disappeared, but we'll just go on. So there's also this that there are also mental health problems which lead to increased suicide cases amongst adolescents. And this is evident in many communities, both in developed and developing countries. We have seen if young people are not trained to express their issues, especially among young men, they tend to end up committing suicide because they feel that is the solution. For them, suicide becomes the solution out of the many mental health problems they have. The sad part is that they end up dying, and it's permanent. You cannot reverse. But it's good when someone can be able to share their issues. So, as a practitioner of youth-friendly services, these are some of the issues you need to be looking at. We really need to go beyond reproductive health so that we can look at the mental and the social aspect of it and see how we can help these young people to be able to deal with these issues. Another thing is not only about young people, but even from peer to peer, even among us. Let us be mindful of each other. Let us be caring about each other, not only about the reproductive part of it, but even the other aspect of health, including the physical, mental, and social aspect of health. So let's move on. So this part, I forgot to include this part in the timetable, but still you're going to look at it because it's one of the most important areas that we really need to focus on. And it is how does youth-friendly services promote gender equality and reproductive health? As I said, our approach to youth-friendly services is gender transformative approach, whereby we are trying to address the negative norms in the society, to challenge them, and focus on the objectivity of having good health. So, when you look at this, youth-friendly services are able to effectively attract young people, meet their needs comfortably and responsibly, and succeed in retaining young clients for continuum of care. The keyword there is continuing or continuum of care, so that whenever they're having a problem, they're comfortable enough to come back to you and share their concern. So we can achieve this by using the gender transformative approach to achieving gender equality and sexual reproductive health and rights, because most times gender issues and issues of reproductive health go hand in hand. I'm seeing people are still posting some of the challenges they experience in their countries, and most of them will always be around culture, religion, and other norms in the society. So these services, we have the 5 dimensions of youth-friendly services. As you can see, the services must be equitable, where boys and girls are treated as human beings who share the same rights and who have equal access to all these services, equal access to information. When I was in primary school, we used to see people coming from the Ministry of Health with sanitary pads for the girls. They tell all the boys to go and play football or to go home. They stay behind with the girls so that they can show them how to use the sanitary towels. And it was not good for us. For them, they believed they were doing the right thing, but we grow up knowing that is a girl's affair. So if I become a father in future, I'm most likely to leave it to become a girl's affair. But the good thing is that now I know if you were treated in an equitable way, these are issues that could be addressing as an open society. I know it's different depending on the context of each country. There are some issues that are only for the girls, and some issues are only left for the boys. Someone is saying they cannot hear me. Can the rest hear me? Someone can just say yes. You can hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So the other part is that accessible. The services should be accessible. From in this first session, I shared accessibility in two forms. Can be the distance between where the young people are to where the services are being provided. The other thing, it can be the time. Is it in the morning? Is it at lunchtime? We need time which young people can be able to access. And sometimes also the cost of the service itself can be an issue to do with accessibility of these services. I'll explain them. We have subsequent slides that have better explanation. And then the services must be acceptable to the young people or the adolescent. These are services that they should be able to accept. They really need to access them because it is obvious people cannot access a service that they don't want. And the other part is the services should be effective. Effective in this case, we mean it should be able to meet the needs of the young people. If I come for a service, if a young person comes for a service and they have an STI, if you give them medicine that is not treating the STI, it means it's not effective. If I come with a problem and I need counseling and they just tell me you are a strong man, go home, stay strong as a man, it is not effective to my mental health. So we need services that can be able to bear good results at the end of the day. And we need to experience positive change at all times when you're offering these services to the young people. The other thing is the services should be appropriate or apt. These are services that are needed, they are timely, and they are offered in a good way, and they create that positive change so that a young person can surely go home and say, what I received in that place truly changed the situation I was in. This includes the service provider. Sometimes we tend to think that the service providers must be young, like the young people. We did in 2016. We did a research with UNFPA and Ministry of Health in Kenya, which showed that the older service providers who have been trained on with friendly services and they can be able to understand the needs of young people are even more appropriate and effective than the ones who look young, they dress young, but still they hold stigma. Still they have prejudice. So when it comes to service provision, age is not the issue, the age of the service provider or the medic, but the attitude and the way the medic carries themselves or the way they interact with these young people is really what matters. So that is forms part of appropriateness of the services, and then how we integrate the services. To make more services appropriate, the issue of integration is very important. So that if a young person comes to the HIV testing and counseling center and you realize they are practicing unsafe sex, there is risk to their lives, you can be able to refer them or to probe further and counsel them on how they can start practicing safe sex. And they should be able to come out of that place maybe with a condom or the knowledge on how they can practice safe sex and maybe reduce the number of partners or sexual partners they're having, and how they can also be able to influence their friends to come for the services or to change their behaviors. So integration of services is very, very important. It makes it appropriate to these young people. So we can move the next slide. If there is any parts or any input you have, kindly just leave them on the notes, on the chat. I'm also reading the chat. So at this point, you're going to look at some of the characteristics of friendly services. In this photo here, This photo was taken last year. I was training some of the young people I work with in Nakuru on how they can be able to provide comprehensive sexuality education to young people out of school and in school. So this was part of the training, and it's part of youth-friendly services because you also have to train these young people so that they can assist us to deliver these services out there. Maybe you can know someone that you know. It is still good. So let me read one of the chants. Someone is saying that is why it is also very important to involve boys too, so that at the end of the day they also know the outcomes and should be able to leave it to the girl child, and it should be able to create responsible men. Exactly. This is what I was saying. We need to also know the challenges that the girls go through so that you can also be able to become better fathers in future. And it's yesterday. Let me just share an experience. Yesterday, I was in a supermarket. I went to buy rice, and I saw this young girl with the father. The girl, I think she wanted to buy the sanitary pads, but the father was so uncomfortable. So the girl could not even mention the word. The girl just said, "There's something I want to get the other side." Then the dad was like, "Okay, let me give you money. You can just pay that one on your own. Then you'll find me at the counter." And if I was not wrong, I think she went to buy something that the father was not comfortable with. And what could it be? So these kind of issues are the ones that we're trying to address. Some men even feel so shy to put maybe condoms on their shopping basket because sometimes it's not even the man himself or the person, but the people at the counter. There's a day I went to buy a condom for a friend of mine who could not go to the supermarket and buy the same condom. He wanted a specific brand. So I went, got the condom, went to the counter, going to pay for it. The guy was just smiling. And you know, the person who packs things for people, they were all just smiling, knowing that this person is most likely going to have sex right now. So the kind of mindset that we have, sometimes it, it makes us not to make the right decision. And that's why most young people hide when it comes to sexual issues and they end up messing. So let's look at youth-friendly services and some of their characteristics. And in this case, I've divided it into three characteristics of youth-friendly service providers or medics or staff. And then you also have youth-friendly health facility. And then the last thing is the youth-friendly programming. Programming is very important. And my work mostly involves programming. So I wanted to ask if they come, we should attend to them and not send them away, right? Can we also influence their decision by changing their mindset and how? Pamela, exactly. This is what I'm meaning. It should go beyond just offering the service. You look at it just in the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. So, you are going to be service providers. You're going to be attending to the young people. These are some of the things we expect from you in future. You need to be familiar with adolescents, physiology, and development. That one is very important so that you don't end up picking on someone on something that will end up affecting them. I remember I remember one of our service provider in one of our clinics almost lost his job because of this issue. A young girl came. She was 17 years old, but she had, this kind of. She was young. She was short, and she was developed anyway. Then this guy was like, "Hey, you're so young, but your breasts are already mature. How comes?" You see, this girl was not comfortable with that, and this is a service provider who should be aware of such things. So it became a very big case when the girl reported it to me, and I had to sit down with the service provider. We had to have a long discussion the good thing you went through the youth-friendly service provision, and now you can be able to handle these cases. But you see, you need to be familiar, and you need to know there are some people who are, they call them late boomers, and then the other ones are early bloomers. Some people grow faster than others. Some people develop differently. So that one is very important for a service provider to keep in mind. And then you must have knowledge on appropriate medical options for adolescents according to the age and maturity. This is now what we call age appropriate service provision. You don't just see any young girl or any young woman or girl coming to access service and you start putting everything before them. You need to be very aware of the appropriateness. Like, for example, a girl can come for dental services, meets you as a service provider in the clinic. Then you start saying, no, you even offer condoms, you even offer contraceptives, you even do this. So youth-friendly services does not mean you put a lot of options on them. In fact, not putting, but forcing them to access services that are not appropriate to them. So we need to keep that in mind. Even though you are providing services to the adolescent, keep to what the need is at that time and let it be appropriate and in accordance to the age of these young clients and their maturity levels. And then counseling training, it's good that all the medics and service providers have a basic counseling training so that they can be able to help the clients to help themselves. That one is very basic and it's important. And I think, Pamela, this one also answers some of your question, because if I keep coming with an STI every week, every Monday, for a good example is in Kenya. In Kenya, there's a cliche whereby they say young people every Monday they come to buy emergency contraceptives. It is something that people on social media can make fun of. But as a service provider, you should not be part of the people who are making fun of such issues. You should be the one to counsel them and ask them and influence them to make the right decision and change their behaviors so that they don't keep coming for the emergency contraception, but they can choose maybe to use a long-term method, which is effective and efficient to them. So to answer the question of Pamela is you don't really influence them to change their decisions, but you influence them to understand the benefits of making a better decision. We don't want the counseling to be directed that use this is the best method for you. It's even cheap. It's even people cannot know. No, we don't want that kind of influence, but you need to influence them to make decisions based on knowledge, informed decisions, so that they can be able to live with it. But if you influence them at that instance, they'll just make a decision because of the now and forget about the tomorrow. So Pamela, I believe I've answered the question in that. And then we also need to work with and serve the youth training and serving the youth training. The key word here is working with, not working for, not working to, but working with the young people. And whenever they are having these trainings, like the one we saw in the picture before, you need to be involved. You need to be familiar with them so that in this side, you're also training them and you're also offering services to them. It builds a sense of trust. The other thing is skills to communicate fluently with the youth language. I know each and every country have their own type of slang. In Kenya, we call it Sheng. There is so much, they are coded language that young people use. And these languages keep changing depending on the generation. Because in Kenya right now, the kind of slang they're speaking, most times I tend not to understand a thing. I just imagine and I get going. So it does not mean that the service provider must learn the slang, but the service provider should have a basic understanding on how young people communicate. Sometimes you don't have to use a lot of proverbs like the older people do. You don't have to use a lot of colloquial English, for example. Young people don't like uh, young people don't like being picked upon, like whenever you're speaking and you're blaming, you're throwing blames and shades at them. That one is not appropriate to them. And then the other thing is that rhetoric questions among young people do not work so well. Young people want open-ended questions so that they can be able to be prompted in giving more explanation and explaining themselves better. So prompting is very appropriate. So that's what I mean by language. Not only the language, the slang, or learning French when you're speaking English and you have a French client, or knowing their mother tongue, that is not really the point, but understanding even the expressions, the listening skills, and how appropriate young people can be able to have an understanding whenever you're communicating to them, and even the client understanding them when they're communicating. So the other thing is the effective interpersonal skills. That one includes communication skills, the expressions, how you welcome them, how you smile at them, how you make follow-up. It has a lot of things. It includes the aspect of effective interpersonal skills, because they don't want to see the plain attitude on your face that you're judging them. You need to be an active listener so that you can be able to empathize with the young people and the issues that they want you to address. The other thing is the ability to relate with the youth in a respectful manner. That includes majorly interpersonal skills, both the service provider who is serving them at present and the colleagues around. Because sometimes in a healthcare setting, you have colleagues who come in and ask questions, ask for something. You don't have to reach a point whereby you are discussing your clients with them. So you need to be respectful always. And then the service provider should have skills to honor youth, privacy, and confidentiality. This one is very important, especially to the caregivers and the medics. I know most of you are familiar with the issue of privacy and confidentiality, both as a person and the environment. Then the skills to engage in conversation about body image, and development, sex, relationship, and contraceptive methods. In my work, just to let you know, the reason why I enjoy the work that I do is that most times these are the conversations you will find me talking with the young people. I'm so used to it that even when I'm not at work, people know I always like talking about issues to do with sex, relationships, and it helps me to create an understanding on the current trends among the young people. So it is always also important to break the ice through such conversations. Like there's a day I was meeting my sister with my cousins, they had a birthday, and because of COVID, so it was a closed birthday. And after blowing the candle, I asked her, "So have you had your first sex?" And everyone was like, "No, who is this?" It is a conversation that can break the ice and it can get us maybe talking about it. So we had quite a good conversation just from that. And you really need to be aware of what you're doing. Sometimes it's risky. Sometimes you can do it in a wrong way and things go south. So we really need to be aware on how we relate to the young people. And then the other thing is the skills to bring myths and misconceptions to the surface and to discuss and dispel them. There are so many myths around. Some people say if you swim with boys, you'll get pregnant in the swimming pool. Some say if you use lemon, it's going to cure all the STIs. After sex, you need to clean your genitals with lemon. There are so many. Some say jig or concoction or overdose of drugs can do abortion. It can, but it's unsafe. So contraceptives lead to disformed babies and so much. can we be able to address these myths and misconceptions? A skill here is how, as a service provider, you're able to bring them out. Young people will not come with the myth to you. The myth is an understanding in their head and how they influence their fellow young people. But as the medic, it is now your responsibility to have the skills to draw them out and ask them, for example, what did you hear that if you use contraceptive will happen to you as a young person? If it's the men, ask them about maybe how much they know about menses and the ladies. Because most men believe when a lady is angry or annoyed or what, it's because of mood swings. Let them know the real issues that are affecting these young people, these young girls, or relationship issues. I have quite a number of friends who believe that they should sleep with so many girls before they get their appropriate married partner. That is a myth that I tend to bring and even dispel. So we should be doing this often. Then the last part, not the last, but the last one in this presentation is sexual health assessment taken and updated at every time. So I know in different countries we have different standards of procedure when providing services. You should always take them, put them in a file, assess them, and put them in consideration for better decision making in future. So as we move to the next slide, let me read one of the comments here. If someone comes to collect condoms, we should give them. And the age is like 14 years. Oh, it is still Pamela. Pamela, in this case, you can just move to the next slide. In this case, if someone comes to collect condoms and they're 14 years, it is always good to maybe know, because it's good they have come for condom. It means they have some knowledge about safe sex and protection. But maybe as a service provider, you can probe further in a respectful way so that this young person can be able to address other issues. Maybe they're taking it for someone who fears to come for them. Maybe they want to go and just know how condom works, and maybe they don't know. Maybe they just had, they give condoms at that place. Maybe you can also be able to provide condom education, show them how to use it correctly, consistently, talk to them about other options, and this one will be able to improve their reasoning when it comes to options on contraception, on reproductive health, and even access to services, because it creates an opportunity for you as the medic to have other young people coming to you for help. So each young person who comes for help or for condom is an opportunity for you to bring other young people, because we know youth and adolescents are very influential to their peers. So I hope I've answered your question. In this photo, this is a friend of mine. These are friends of mine. The service provider is our service provider where I work. This is his room, and these are some ladies, some of our facilitators. He was showing them how contraceptives work, how IUCD is inserted, and other options. So this is a typical example of a youth-friendly service center setup. Let's move to the next one. I hope you've seen the photo. So at this part, you already looked at the medical practitioner, their characteristics, or the service provider. Now we're looking at a youth-friendly health facility characteristic. Reflecting upon the photo you have just seen, that was the inside. So the question that comes here is how convenient is the location? Where is it located? Is it within a radius that young people can be able to access? The other thing is the space. Where I work, we have a youth center, which is inside a health facility. It's a clinic. In some other towns in Kenya, we have youth centers and the health facilities, they're in different locations, but where I work, they're in the same place. So our space is not so big, but it's adequate. Young people can access it. And then does it have a counseling area that provides visual and auditory privacy. This one, I mean, there's a wall, you cannot see what people are doing in the other side, and you cannot hear what they're doing. So that is part of privacy. The other thing is that the facility should have an examination area that provides both visual and auditory privacy. That is, people cannot hear and people cannot see what procedure is taking place, the counseling is taking place, or the consultation. Young people value privacy. The other thing is the environment should be comfortable. In this case, it is not the comfort of the one you can get in a lounge somewhere. It is not the comfort you can get at home, but there is just that standard style of comfort that young people can be comfortable with. There is a time in 2009 in Kenya, there's a place called Machakos. There's an organization that tried to make a youth center. So they built a very nice building. They bought music, equipment, library, the seats were nice, everything was so nice. They even had a carpet for that youth center. So it was a youth-friendly health facility. But after 4 months, no one was coming to the facility. And they kept asking themselves, what is wrong with their facility? Everything was there. Everything was nice that young people want. They had a nice carpet. They had a DSTV. People could watch football. People could use the internet. But you see, the area was so posh and nice, but it was not comfortable at the same time because the young people in that area, they're not used to such places. And they see a carpet, they believe they're not supposed to step on it. When they see a big television, flat screen, and you know those days flat screen were not there, they are not so common. So that was something that was so strange to them. So they were not comfortable with that youth center, and it did not work in their local, in their context. But if you could take it to Nairobi, it could work so well because young people in Nairobi, they come from a city, and those are the things they're used to at their homes, so it's easy for them to blend. So the facilities are very important. The other thing is, Lois Acheng, thank you. The other thing is the high quality adolescent health materials are available and in all languages, mostly the local languages that young people in the community speak and for the various reading levels, including low literacy. So I believe in when you look at most educational materials, especially the ones about family planning, you will see some of them have pictures and they use very simple language so that everyone can understand, irrespective of their education level. So that one is very important to put in mind because these young people will be accessing these centers to read material. Is it okay? Okay, let's continue. Okay, give me a moment. I plug in my charger. Okay, I'm back. So, where was I? So I've given you that case study. So you need young people need to be comfortable. Materials need to be in appropriate language, simple language that they can all understand. Use pictures, texts. They are making it quite simple. depending on the context or the area where you operate. The other thing is that you have clear, visible information about the youth, clinic hours and location. That one is mostly the service charter. Service charter indicates the time, cost of service, type of service, cohort, and how long it needs for you to take before you get that service provided. So that one is also important for the young people to know, and it should be clear and visible. Then, if you're using information communication technology, you can use automated messages or telephones to make follow-ups, to provide information. You can use Google Maps for locations, visiting hours, and all the kinds that are available for the young people. At our organization, we are really trying to use social media so that you can be able to do follow-ups with the young people who access the service in our facility. But this one also, depending on what works in which country, it is very appropriate. In Kenya, I think in Kenya, so many young people have mobile phones. I think we have more than 100% internet in any mobile phone penetration, and it's easier to reach them through WhatsApp because it's the most common social media in Kenya. I know it's different from one country to the other, so you can use the one that is most appropriate in your country. And then you also have the youth center or the facility is supposed to display information and health education materials on issues related to adolescent sexual reproductive health. In my workspace, I have displayed the rights of a client so that young people can know their rights. I also have a poster on COVID and how it has affected young people and how they need to put on mask and wear and sanitize. The other poster here is about gender-based violence. I also have a poster on contraceptives. So I'm literally looking at them now. So it is very important because when they access the youth center, they really need to look at them and know which service they can access and also get information at the same time. Then we should be having teen-focused magazines and posters displayed on the wall. That's what I've just explained. Currently, we don't have a magazine, but I know some organizations that are doing these services. They have magazines for the young people. So those are some of the issues we really need to consider for the facility to be called youth friendly. And those are some of the universal characteristics that we have. So let's go to the next slide. This is right where I'm seated right now. I'm seated over there in that corner as I do this training. And we have books there which we read. And these are some of the young people I work with. These are volunteers I work with in Nakuru. So you can see it is not a very posh place, but it's an appropriate place where young people can be comfortable to read, to develop materials. Like these young people were making a poster, and he had friends to give feedback if the poster is appealing to young people or not. So these are just small efforts that young people can put in so that you can be able to promote sexual and reproductive health. And it is even better when the medics and the service providers are able to endorse the preventive part of it that the young people are taking part in. So it is very important that we work as a team. The next slide. This is another area. As I said earlier, this is our facility. I had to put these photos so that I can show you practical examples. This is where they sit to have discussions, to dance, to do all the other things that young people want to do, like playing indoor games. So we are trying to invest in what we can do for the young people to have a moment to interact with each other and learn through peer-to-peer interaction. So these are some of the volunteers I also work with. Maybe you know some of them. It is okay. So the next slide. So lastly, we are going to look at the programming part of it. again, when you talk about programming, this is a whole training to do with what young people desire. So we have youth supposed to be involved in the design, continuing feedback and programming so that is meaningful with participation. It is what we call MYP. I will send you another presentation. You will look on your own that has everything to do with MYP. It's a presentation I presented in the International Conference on Population and Development last year. So I will send it to you. And then the fees of the services being offered should be affordable to the young people or free. Sometimes we provide free services, sometimes we charge them an affordable fee. Then boys and young men are welcome and served because most of the reproductive health services are biased towards the girls and young women. So we really need to involve the young men and boys so that they can grow being responsible men in the society and they can be able to help us achieve the gender equality goal. And then we have a wide range of services. Most people just offer HIV services and contraceptives. We should go ahead and provide other services like counseling, mental health counseling services, and other outpatient services or inpatient services which the young people can access. The other thing is that we can use numbers for calling out their names instead of using names whenever they are in a queue or they are seated in the waiting area. Most young people don't like being mentioned by name when they're in the health facility because they believe it increases the degree of stigma among service providers. For example, you're going for HIV testing and they call you by your name. Some feel like it's not comfortable. So it is something that has been happening so much, especially in CCC facilities, where young people go to access the antiretroviral therapy services or the ARV drugs. They don't like being called by name when they're in a general health facility. So you can use numbers instead. And then the other part is that system to red flag youth with particular confidentiality concerns. It is always good to know the issues of the young people and the degree of confidentiality you should keep, especially even the confidentiality between one service provider to the other. Sometimes it may include disclosing some of these issues to their parents. Like if I go for an abortion service, I would not want anyone, even my mother, to know. So the service provider should be able to keep that in mind. Then we also have flexible hours of working. Some young people who are at school or they're doing other things outside in the community may come for the services during lunchtime when there are shorter queues, when there are not so many people in the clinic. Sometimes they come in the evening or the weekends to have their appointments. So we should be flexible enough to provide these services at this appropriate time for among the young people. The other thing is the clinic staff is called by first name. Calling them by first name increases their familiarity with the young people because they would like to interact with one another. And then we should have a well-established linkage and referral system to help the young people with other needs like education, employment, and social services needs. Let's go to the next slide. I'm rushing because I've realized time is not on our side. This is just an illustration of a training which we are training service provider for the government and for our facilities. So they are being trained on youth-friendly services, the same training that you're going through right now. Let's check the next one. This is another training where young people were training, where a young person was training other young people on how to refer clients for services and how to provide comprehensive sexuality education. So it is just an illustration. I hope people have seen. Let's move to the next. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but time is not on our side. Let's get guidance on how you're going to take the. We had okay. Let's just go to this one.
We already did it. We covered it in the break time.
Oh, you covered
Yes.
it?
Yes.
So, okay. So the other one, this is now an assignment I would like us to do. How are we going to do this? So, in the next session, I will share a link which is going to have 3 questions, just 3, where you're going to tell us which SRH issue are you most passionate about among these. I believe they're going to share with you the slide after this. Then you just select one that you're most passionate with so that you can be able to know uh, what you will be most likely going to focus on when you're going to start providing these services to the young people. It is mostly important to me to know. So kindly let us all purpose to participate in this exercise. I know time is over. Let's go to the next slide. So they will share the slides with you. These are some of the most important reading materials you can have on youth-friendly services from UNFPA, CSA Kenya. We have one from IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation, and then one for TCI, that is the Challenge Initiative by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You'll go through them. Let's see the next slide. You can.
So we're supposed to break out in 6 groups. I've already allocated group leaders for all the 6 groups. We're going to discuss these questions in groups in 10 minutes, and then we'll convene and just summarize it by 10 minutes before we wind up with the session. I hope that's okay with everybody. I'm so sorry we've gone past time, but it's possibly because we delayed in starting. But next time we'll definitely keep time and make sure that the sessions end at 4 sharp. Yes.
So let's wait for the breakout sessions.
Hello guys, is there anyone who has not joined the breakout session? You can raise your hand or speak.
Sarah, would you like to begin the discussion now? Sarah, can you hear me? Sarah, I can't hear anything. Okay, so guys, do any of you have any suggestions as to why contraceptive use is low among the adolescents and the young people? You can give suggestions based on your country. Yes, and then we will add it on to the screen that's displayed. Is that fine with everyone?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we can continue with the discussion. I'm going to remove my video. So I was saying we are answering this question: why is contraceptive use among adolescents low? I'm sorry you couldn't hear me before. I was talking to myself. So I would like to hear your opinions about why a reason for this. I will give one and hear what you guys have. Okay. I would love some feedback, please. Okay. Okay. So one of the reasons is why the contraceptive session, not contraceptive session, the use of contraceptive among adolescents is rather low is one of the reasons that we talked about in the first session, which is barriers. There are barriers that the service providers put there before the adolescents. In that they start judging the adolescents and saying maybe they're too young to have to use contraceptives, or they are. Can you all hear me? Okay. They're either too young or that to use contraceptives, or they're too young to start having sex, and they put this negative mindset towards them, and hence they are very, very scared to use contraceptives. If you have any other suggestion, please, you can unmute yourself and tell it to me, or you can just type it in the chat box. Does anyone have suggestions? Okay. Or you can just type it in the chat box. Please let's hurry before other people in the other breakout sessions join back. I'm waiting for your responses. Okay, fine. In the meantime, let me give you another reason as to why, maybe one of my reasons why. Thank you, Barbara. They have fear that they fear the bad side effects of contraceptives. This is very true. I'll be typing it over here. They fear the bad side effect of contraceptives. Thank you, Barbara. This is very, very true because most of the time they do not really have the correct information, and they're told maybe when you start using contraceptives you will never be able to get a child, and perhaps in their family they know that you have to get a child, or rather they will be told that you'll gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight. These are things maybe they're told by their peers, and they really fear the bad side effects of contraceptives. That is very nice. Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else?
Hi.
Hi.
I think I can contribute and say they fear not fear, but cost of services. Some of them can't afford that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
true. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think most adolescents are in school, so like timings, like they don't have, some of them don't have time to go, and they're scared when you go during such and such time, they'll be seen by so and so. Yeah.
Not right timings. Not right timings. This is very right. I'm sorry, your name is?
Stacy.
Stacy, thank you very much, Stacy. This is very true. The prices can be very high to get the contraceptives, and you need the timings. They might find that maybe the time that they can access is in the evening, where maybe the place is closed, or there are too many people there, so they fear that there'll be no one and things like that. Not right timing. I don't know if that's right. Let me just try it quickly. Any other person? Thank you, Stacy. Any other person? Let me see. There's a chat here. Could another reason be that they cannot get it with help of an adult, and asking your parents, for instance, is a bit awkward? It's a bit of an awkward situation. Yes, this is true. Consent, lack of consent. Because, yes?
I was just saying there's also another suggestion in the chat box.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
Compliancy for pills need to remember to take every day at the same time. This is very, very true, Asma. They might forget. Let me write. Lack of consent. Then what else? Compliancy for pills. Taking it every day at the same time, it might not be possible because of their schedules. Maybe they have homework, or maybe they forget. Every day at the same time can be quite hectic for them. Any other person? Any other person? These are very true. This is very true.
Maybe another reason is that because many adolescents tend to have relationships with people older than them, could the reason be that they're scared of what their partners would think of them?
Yeah, this could be also another reason.
And maybe they're not able to negotiate for safe sex because they don't feel they have the same rights and capacity as their partner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually makes sense. That could be a reason. Fear of discussion with their sex partner. Yeah, because they may feel inadequate, especially older partners.
Does anyone else have any suggestions?
Any other suggestions? Wamala, did you fix your issue with the network?
Who?
Wamala. He's not even here.
Oh,
Okay.
Does anyone else have any suggestion? Anyone? Anything? Please? Please? Oh my God.
Help us get to know this topic. I want to hear what you guys think about this topic. Why do you think as an adolescent, because I think all of us have been there, why do you think as an adolescent, sorry, it was very, very hard for you to get contraceptives? Put yourself in an adolescent's shoe, if I may say. So we have, they fear the bad side effects of contraceptives, which is very true. There's some people who give out myths about the side effects of contraceptives, hence the young adolescent people, the young adolescents lack the right information about this. There's high prices of services, which is also very true. Some services can be quite costly, especially for adolescents who do not have any source of income, not right timing. Maybe the facility is open at night. Facilities open and closing time. Let me put that. Facilities open and closing time. Okay, I can see somebody has written something in the chat box. Let me see. Cultural and religious factors surrounding sexuality and contraception. This is very, very true. The social norms that have been put in place in the society, in our cultural society, is actually a big hindrance as to why adolescents don't really access contraceptives. Like, for example, I know the Catholics are actually against family planning methods, and I'm sure it is put on them by the youth. Sorry, I'm writing things. So we can see that. Richard, they do not know where to get the contraceptives. This is very true. They might not know where the health facilities which offer these services are. Thank you, Richard. Asma, thank you as well. Anyone else? Sorry, I'm typing kind of slowly. They don't know where to get the contraceptives.
I have like a comment to make about contraceptives.
Yes.
Because we've been in like many other groups talking about like this issue of underage pregnancy, the high underage pregnancy statistics in Kenya.
Yes.
And people like don't, maybe like the FDA or they're like very religious. They think that if we start talking to kids about contraceptive, it's like encouraging them. But I don't see it like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people who oppose this issue of contraceptives or educating the youth about contraceptive.
Mm-hmm.
How can we like handle that?
That falls under cultural and religious factors surrounding sexuality and contraceptives. It is very true, especially with the current generation that we're in, the previous generation that we're in. Our parents really, when you talk about contraceptives to kids around their age, they kind of flip out and go like, why are you talking to them about sex? They're still too young to to know about sex and contraceptives. So I think it's something that we can start with from the aspect of the parents and tell them, no, we're just educating them, we're empowering them to know that in such a case, if you get to be sexually active, you could have this option and you can use this contraceptive so that you may not get pregnant early, because you know sex is something that is between two people and you can't really like force them not to do. So the best way is to encourage them to use contraceptives. We have another one from Benjamin. Stigma or fear of being judged, not well informed by society, parents about their sexuality, leave alone contraceptives. This is very true, Benjamin. Let me type it quickly. Richard says they don't use them because maybe they don't want their parents to know them having sexual relations, and them using contraceptives. This is very true. As we said, parents, okay, fine, we're ending it right now. As we said earlier, parents really are, especially the older generation and the cultural beliefs, believe that an adolescent is still too young to know about sex, and the children might fear this. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I'll be ending our session here as everyone else is joining. Let me just type these questions that have been posted here by Benjamin and Richard. Thank you so much.
Hello?
Hi.
Wait, after this, are we going to the main room or do we just leave?
Yeah, we're supposed to convene and just summarize everything like in 5 minutes and end the meeting. Yes, that's what I was just about to say. Because not everyone was discussing the same thing, and it would be good to hear what everyone came up with. You get? So I'd like either Atina or Sarah, one of you, to start presenting, because it looks like everyone else has come back from the breakout session. So yes, one of you, please start presenting on what you guys did. And let's try to hurry, like just hurry up and summarize everything, because we are way past.
Okay, Sarah, you can just go ahead. You did a good job.
Okay, fine. I've not written everything. Sorry. Let me maximize my screen. Okay, fine. I think you can just see it like this. So we talked about, the question was, okay, let me make it full screen for us. Okay, I can't really make it full. I don't know why. Yeah. So the question is, why is contraceptive use among adolescents low? I hope we can all hear me. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can hear you.
So why is contraceptive use among adolescents low? One of the answers was they fear the bad side effects of contraceptives, which is true because they don't really have facts about it. The other question was high prices of the services, especially them being adolescents. I don't think really they have much money because they don't earn a living, and maybe their pocket money allowances are kind of low. And also not the right timings, the facilities open and closing times. You can find that the times that the free times that the adolescents have might not be quite right with the facilities opening and closing time, or at that time that they're free, there are too many people in there and they lack the privacy. They also lack consent, especially adolescents younger than 18 years. They might need the parents' consent to have these services, and they might fear going to ask the parents for consent. There's compliancy for pills. Need to remember to take every day at the same time, especially with a different schedules, and it being in school, they might forget to take it every day at the same time. Fear of discussion with their partners, especially older partners. You might find that some adolescents engage in sexual relationship with partners that are a bit older than them, and they might have fear talking to their partners about this. So they fear talking about contraceptives with them. Also, there's cultural and religious factors surrounding sexuality and contraception. This is another factor. Okay. This is another factor that affects them, especially like we have Catholics. They're not very particular about family planning methods. They really discourage against it. They do not know where to get contraceptives from. They may lack the knowledge of where the health facility that offers contraceptives is. Also, there are two other questions that are not written down. There's stigma from parents. Stigma, fear of being judged. This is from Benjamin in the chat box, sorry. There's stigma or fear of being judged, not well informed by society, parents about the sexuality, leave alone the contraceptives. So you will find that most of the time that the parents really do not talk to the children about the contraceptives and the sexuality. Rita says they do not use them because they do not want their parents to know them having they're having sexual relations and using contraceptives. This is another reason why fear of being stigmatized by their parents. So this is what we discussed under this question.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. So we swiftly move to Atina. Please try and be fast and summarize in 1 minute. 1 minute, 60 seconds, if it's possible. Okay. So Sarah, you can stop screen sharing. Atina?
Okay, I'm sharing. Okay, so you guys can see, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so we did case study number 3, and they asked what are the most important points to cover when counseling adolescents about sexual behavior. And then we just we first took time to discuss on our own, and we discussed stigma and the problems we face in society today. And then we went over what it said, and they said when counseling adolescents about sexual behavior, it is important to help them understand the physical and emotional changes that occur with the growth and development. Stress the importance of clarifying one's personal value and having skills to ensure that unwanted sex does not occur. Dispel local and customary myths, practices that may be harmful or put the adolescent at greater risk for pregnancy or STIs. Ask questions that help assess risk, including STIs and possibly abusive relationships. Ensure that an adolescent understands his or her own risk for contracting and how to protect against STI, HIV infections, and unplanned pregnancy. Stress the importance of communication and mutual respect in sexual relationships. Inform them of the location of other youth-friendly services and resources. And on top of this, we also discussed the challenges the boy child and the girl child face in society today when it comes to SRHR education. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much, Atina. That was great. Richa, what did your group discuss? Richa?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can hear you.
We discussed on are adolescents more at risk for STI/HIV than adults? If so, why? So should I start screen sharing, or
Yes,
would you guys
start.
like me to? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Just a second. Just a second. Okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is what each one of them had to say. So one says yes because less education and on condom use and other protective measures. And there was another one who says less information about HIV. They want to explore more, so this leads them to more risky behavior and also peer pressure influence. Then we had another one where they were saying there's more curiosity, there's lack of education and misinformation, leading them to more risky behaviors and also having multiple sexual partners. And also there was stigma associated, and there was also reluctance to ask for more information from your doctors or elders, financial issues to pay for those services as well. And we had one which did not agree with this, and she said that no, also most adults do not have enough information and also formal education, so are also more likely to be prone to these. And another one was immune systems are weakly developed, so they're not able to fight these infections. And another one said the trained clinical staff or staff members have negative attitudes about adolescent sexual activity and contraceptive use and the legal restrictions. Another one was adolescents experience non-consensual sexual relationship with older, more powerful partners with whom they may feel unable to negotiate safer sex practices. Yeah. So that's, yeah, so.
Thank you so much. I guess I'll call Klaus.
Yep.
Yes, Klaus. What did you discuss in your group?
I hope you guys are having some good time. So for session, I'm just showing just now how counseling, how is counseling young people different from counseling? I'll be reading the number one. So we said that the counseling it's different because the youth may be less informed about their reproductive capacity, their contraception, the STIs. Hence, the counselor literally has to bring those issues up. That is point number one. Then point number two, he said the youth might have been exposed to dangerous misconceptions and myths and false beliefs. And here, at least, we had people discuss some of these misconceptions and myths according to their own country of origin and community in which they have come from, and it was really constructive. Number three, we discussed that the society don't openly talk about issues of sexuality to the teens, to the youth, hence it's difficult for them to admit their sexuality. And there was a general consensus that in most because they are too young. And we also discussed some of the issues that are affecting different countries because we don't talk about these sexuality issues, and it came out very, very well. Then another point that we discussed was that the adolescents may seek to accept greater guidance from a greater professional whom they hold of high regard. That is, we also incorporated some of the traits that a service provider should have, the body of language they should have, the communication, including communicating in the language or the slang that the youth are able to interact with, how open they are and interactive they are with youth, that would encourage them to make the adolescent open up the issues they're facing to them rather than opening it to the parents or something like that. Adolescents are less likely.
Have you finished?
There was a general consensus that are not very poor in terms of their sexual recovery. So find the range of concern. This is why they require counseling time. They have different issues, relationship with their peers, partners, family members, parents, school, employment, stuff like that. Yeah, those are the things that we discussed today, and we had some good time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hafswa?
Okay.
Hafswa?
Hello. So our group had our question had two parts. So I'll read out the first part, and Miguel will read the second part. So the first part was, what are the various forms of unsafe abortion? We said using a hanger to damage the fetus, trying to remove it by use of a hanger or other objects, use of a needle to rupture the membranes so that you can induce a miscarriage, jumping from a building, or blunt trauma to the abdomen so that the fetus can be expelled. Some people use detergent or hot boiling water up the genitals. All these are to harm the fetus. Some may overdose on drugs. Some may drink or pump toxic fluids using IV. The toxic fluids could be like acids. And then some may take drugs that stimulate uterine contractions, e.g. oxytocin. And all these points are unsupervised by medical personnel. Miguel, could you do the second part, please?
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Miguel.
Okay. Well, the next point, why do the youth prefer to undergo the procedure as opposed to the safe abortion services, etc.? Well, we talk about the need of privacy, since there are not many people you will meet. Maybe if that people go to the abortion services, they would meet much people. Another reason could be religion and cultural barriers. Then we talk about financial constraints. So many of the women who have to to take this decision is because of financial situation. So it could be another problem. Inaccessible location, if it's far from the village, for example. Lack of knowledge about that safe abortion services. Maybe there is information, but you don't have it. And finally, we talk about stigma and peer pressure, which is more of the same. If you go to that services, people around you will know what you have done, and that is also the peer pressure. If everyone in your place doesn't go to abortion services, you won't go if the other people doesn't go. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Miguel. So thank you, Hafswa, for the group work that you did. I'd like to call upon Duncan to summarize what he did in 30 seconds, and then we end the meeting because we really delayed it. Yeah.
Okay, I hope you guys you can hear me.
Yes, we
Hello.
can.
Okay. So we were doing this question, which is saying what factors influence whether adolescents use contraceptive effectively. So factor number one was about education. Is a factor. If they understand or they know something about the contraceptive, they could use them effectively. And another factor which can limit the use of contraceptives, in this case, like let's say condoms, is where we have that one partner is not comfortable with use of the contraceptive, will force the other partner not to use it. So we talk about consensus. The second part of the question was how can we as providers facilitate more consistent contraceptive use among adolescents. So number one was education. We need to educate the adolescents and ensure they have information and they know the various types of available contraceptives and the destigmatize the use of contraceptives. Then secondly, we need to have an effective follow-up means, and this means that once they have used the contraceptives, they're able to follow up and understand whether they use them correctly and maybe they have any other challenges, as well as providing details on where they can access the contraceptives. So that's what we discussed in question 6. Thank you so much. Yeah, back to you.
So thank you guys for all the group work that you did. I'm very happy that you all participated, and I'd like to thank you all for coming for today's session and apologize so much for delaying. We promise that next time we will keep time. So I guess the meeting is over, but before I do so, I'd like to thank Dr. Online as well and Sake President, who has been very supportive in helping us get this platform. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope there's a lot that you've learned. I'll be sending a feedback form in the evening, and I hope that all of you will fill it in so that we know where we went wrong and how we can improve. So yes, I guess now I will. Yes, the session is over, so you can all leave the group. Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.